Baseball isn't just numbers, numbers, numbers.
This game is not being played on computers.
You don't do that with a bunch of statistical gimmicks.
You don't put a team together with a computer.
We're talking weighted runs created plus,
expected WOBA,
his sweet spot rate,
defensive runs above average,
average exit velocity,
barrel rate,
xFIP,
BABIP,
SIERA.
We are above replacement radio. And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball, kind of whatever. I'm your host, Chris Chianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today. I'm broadcasting from Florida, from Tampa, Florida. I hit the halfway mark since our last recording. I went to Tropicana Field for the first time. It was my 15th career major league ballpark, career active ballpark as well. So I am halfway to 30. So I will remain halfway for the rest of my life at the very least until expansion. So I got to get at least the number 16 before that. So, but yeah, the Trop, it was exactly what I thought it was. I'd say you can take that to mean whatever you want.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it good to get another ballpark checked off the list for you. But yeah, we've kind of concluded the trade talk era of the season. It's always a fun time, but now we're kind of in the little bit of the postseason push, and a couple of teams, a couple teams out of the West have really emerged, and after being kind of stagnant for most of the year, have become NL wildcard frontrunners. Those teams have been the Padres and the Diamondbacks, and we'll first talk about the Padres, who have won 16 of their last 18. What have you been seeing out of the Friars?
Yeah, I mean, for the Padres, it's kind of just been a very consistent playing model here. They have very good offense, they have very good pitching, and have in this stretch, you're talking about their last 8 July 20th. In that span, they have the best FWAR among pitchers in the National League. They have a 2.95 team ERA. That is the lowest in all of baseball, a 3.36 FIP, trailing only the Mariners in FWAR. In terms of starters, they've gotten some major contributions from a couple guys. Dylan Cease, of course, threw that no-hitter against the Nationals, but also has a .4 ERA in his last 4 starts. Michael King has been excellent for them, a 2.95 ERA as well. Pitching has been kind of the name of the game for them. Offense has been not too far behind. Bullpen especially has been very strong. Robert Suarez, Jeremiah Estrada have been excellent. Tanner Scott has struggled a bit since he's come over, but that's all right.
Right. And yeah, offense has also looked very good for the Padres as well. Like I guess when you do go on a 16-2 run, both sides of the ball have to be clicking. But yeah, Jurickson Profar is hitting 294 with a 1030 OPS in the span. Manny Machado has heated back up after a rough start to the season. He's hitting 303 with a 934 OPS. Xander Bogaerts, after being on the IL following another disappointing start, not another from him, but just adding to Machado's slow start. But Xander Bogaerts hitting 378 with a 920 OPS. I'm sure there's a little bit of luck involved there, considering the 429 BABIP, but it's good to see him getting some positive results. And then Jackson Merrill has been kind of leading this offense during this 18-game stretch, especially in the later half of this. He's hitting 388 with an 1192 OPS in the span. He's kind of emerged as a Rookie of the Year candidate after he wasn't really in our first half Rookie of the Year discussion at all. But he is certainly taken the reins on this Padres offense, and really been a factor that maybe. Yeah, a large factor that maybe we didn't expect him to be coming into the season.
Yeah, I do wonder if there's going to be some sort of Rookie of the Year conversation between Paul Skeens and Jackson Merrill, because I think a lot of people just wanted to hand it to Skeens on the basis of what we thought he was going to do in the second half, and he's still been fine. He had a good fifth outing last night. Did give up a few runs against the Dodgers, but Jackson Merrill, yeah, 1.5 F4 and a 200 plus weighted runs created plus in the second half since July 20th. Another thing that's just been interesting to me about this Padres team as a whole is how clutch they've been. Our friend Sarah Langs had the stat last night. They've won 3 consecutive games uh, despite trailing in the ninth inning. They were down 7-5 last night in Miami. Jackson Merrill hit a 3-run home run to take the lead. The Marlins did tie it in the ninth, but the Padres went on to win. And yeah, 3 straight wins when trailing in the ninth. The last team to do that was the 2009 Florida Marlins at the time. So naturally, their win probability added is the highest in the league since July 20th. It's at 451. The next best is the Diamondbacks at 408, and then after that, you have to go to 309 to find the Kansas City Royals. So they've been, comfortably I guess you could say, clutchest team in baseball when you look at win probability added. I want to pull up their high leverage numbers. I'm curious to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it really is the balance of everything after the brutal year on that front last year.
Mm,
Is I'm actually looking now. They're 7-1 in extra inning games this year, which is pretty hilarious because they
yeah,
were 2-12 in extra inning games last year. So yeah, I'm sure. I think there's in the analytics world, there's a lot of a lot of talk about how the clutch factor is usually just kind of a matter of coincidence, and usually it's just the best teams or best players have the best results in those situations. But I guess this is sort of proof because they were horrible in these situations last year, but they're awesome in them this year. So but yeah, it's very good for them and the Padres fan base that they're actually able to come through in these situations.
all right, Chris, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
So in high leverage situations, since July 20th, the Padres have 80 plate appearances. Again, in high leverage situations, they are slashing 385, 474, 738 for a 12-12 OPS and 246 weighted runs created plus. The next highest weighted runs created plus is 194, and they are at 246.
Yeah.
Uh, on the flip side, Cincinnati has an 8 weighted runs created plus in high leverage situations.
Yeah, that's what, and that's kind of the opposite, or I don't have the full stats in the Reds, but that seems like the opposite is to what they were last year. It seemed like the Reds were kind of a clutch
Yeah,
team
it's
last year.
also just very fitting with what they were this year. I believe the last time I checked, the Reds were 9-20 in one-run games this year.
Wow.
Yeah, they have a
Yeah.
positive run differential, the second best run differential in the division.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
pretty wild. Yeah, it seems to be the balance. Not that that's the reason they're succeeding in close situations here with the Padres, but it is kind of funny how it works out. And yeah, I mean, they're having a lot better win-loss results than last year. That's for sure. They're 14 games above 500 right now, which if you told that to us, 3 weeks ago, we'd be like, wow, that's utterly insane. But they've gone on a crazy run. Sure, these past couple wins have been against the Marlins um and they came off a sweep of the Pirates, but in this run, they've beaten, they've taken a series against Cleveland, they've swept Washington, they've taken a series in Baltimore, they won 2 in a row against the Dodgers. They've defeated some tough teams within this, with at least Cleveland, Baltimore, and LA. So yeah, they're not only winning, but winning against some tough competition within this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, good for the Padres. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, how dangerous do we see them, potentially in a playoff series if they do indeed get going there?
I mean, we've seen them before, take over playoff series as underdogs, right? We saw them as the 5 seed in 2022, make it 3 wins away from the World Series. We saw them take down 2 100-win teams. Um, I think it's crazy that the NL West is a race now. I mean, you look at the standings just full season wise. The Padres are 2.5 games behind the Dodgers. The Diamondbacks are 3.5 games back. Like, this is absolutely something that nobody expected coming into the year, that we'd be talking about the NL West division race on August 11th.
Right, right. And it's not even like I mean, the Dodgers, I think we expected to, just by their own high standards, to do a little bit better, but they're doing pretty well. Yeah, I'm sure they're on pace for like mid 90s wins or something around there. So it's not really necessarily a knock in the Dodgers. It's just, man, Padres and Diamondbacks have been absolutely killing it. Yeah, and
They've with a lot of injuries. Well, that's a lot of it.
yeah, obviously with Mookie Betts at the forefront of that and Yoshinobu Yamamoto right behind him, that has not helped the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm curious how many more head-to-head matchups they might have. It looks like one series right now. Yeah, I think they only have one series against each other, so it's not like the Padres can make up too much ground. It will be from September 24th to 26th. So yeah, we'll see if that holds any significance. But as far as now, they will not be facing each other in the near future. But yeah, anything more before we move on to Arizona?
No, let's talk about the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, because yeah, the Diamondbacks were like the Padres, very stagnant for the first 3 months of the year. I was ready to feel very correct about them. You know, we were both kind of low on them heading into the season, but yeah, they have turned things around and hopped right into this National League playoff race. They are 26-10 in their last 36, if my math is correct. Yeah, they've been absolutely dominating. What have you been seeing from the Snakes?
Yeah, I mean, it's been obviously pitching has been very good, but I mean, I think the offense has really been the star of the show here since June 29th. That is their last 36 games. The Diamondbacks as a team are slashing 284, 359, 512 for a 139 weighted runs created plus. They have 12.4 position player F4. That's almost 3 WAR above the next best team, which has been the Yankees. I want to dive specifically into some of their offense. Since June 29th, they have an exit velocity as a team above 90 miles an hour. Um, but my favorite thing is that their fly ball rate is one of the highest, and 36.7% of their fly balls have been pulled. And that is the highest rate in the majors. Their average exit velocity on pulled fly balls is 96.6 miles per hour. That is tied for the sixth highest in all of baseball in that span. So, I mean, they're hitting the ball hard and they're making the right kind of contact. And for that reason, they have the most home runs in this span, 65. The next best is 61 by Atlanta. They're also playing good defense. They're running the bases very well. So, I mean, offense has been, the big specialty for the Diamondbacks in this span.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And yeah, for a kind of a sneak preview of that, if that would make sense, but go check out episode 319, Daniel's breakdown of Eugenio Suarez and his successes.
Yeah.
Because yeah, much of Eugenio Suarez's successes is reflective of what Arizona is doing as a team, is pulling fly balls and hitting hard pulled fly balls.
If it wasn't for Suarez, they would have a 33% pulled fly ball rate instead of 36.
Yeah, that
That up.
that
That's
does
that's the
seem that does seem to check out. Yeah, Suarez in this 36 game span for the Diamondbacks in general has a 1020 OPS. Ketel Marte is just having a revolutionary season, turning the clock back to 2019 here. He has an 1100 OPS in this span. Hoping for the best. I did see he left last night's game with an injury, so hoping for the best there because he is in the middle of an absolutely crazy season right now that is not really getting talked about a lot, but it's absolutely absurd what he's doing, both on defense and on offense. And then yeah, there's a couple other guys. Jock Peterson in the span. I'm sure maybe missed a little bit of time because his plate appearances are a little bit lower, but he has an 1103 OPS in the span. He's been an amazing addition for Arizona. One of the more underrated signings of this past offseason. But yeah, yeah, Arizona and their offense seem to be doing well. That was probably one of the things that was holding me back on Arizona coming into this year was, I think they had a 95 OPS plus last season. So it's cool to see them, not only hit the ball, but also slug. Their team OPS plus this year is 114. That is not something I expected coming into this year.
Especially in such a down year for Corbin Carroll too.
Yeah, that's absolutely absurd. I mean, the power of Ketel Marte and Jock Peterson.
Yeah, who has like a 950 OPS this year.
Um, yeah. Jock Peterson is at 943. And then yeah, I mean Christian Walker, shout out Christian Walker, just staying between 120 and 130 all the time. That's where his OPS plus is gonna be no matter what. But yeah, just a wild yeah, a very cool season for Arizona's offense. We kind of knew them for starting pitching a little bit, at least their first two, um but yeah, uh yeah, anything else you got on Arizona?
Yeah, I do. I think I just do want to talk a little bit more about Ketel Marte because I feel like for I don't know 4 months now I've been like, okay, how long is Ketel Marte going to keep this up? Like this isn't really what his season's going to be, right? But it is. Uh, he was to me like kind of the face of, well, not the face of, but one of the faces of like a guy who's clearly never going to be what he was in 2019 ever again because that was just like a happened to be his peak and happened to be the juice balls and whatnot. But I mean, yeah, in terms of pure results, 2020 has been better than this year. But I mean, you got to consider in league factors. He has a career high right now in OPS plus at 932 at 159. So I mean, you gotta put respect on what he's done, and I mean, he's done it by hitting the ball way harder, right? I mean, he's been consistently living in the low 90s for average exit velocity, 90, 91. This year he's at 93.7, so like he's casually increased his already very high exit velocity by 2.5 miles an hour. He's hitting the ball. He is hitting a lot of ground balls, 49.7%, but he does have good enough sprint speed, 47%. And when he's not hitting ground balls, he's crushing it and he's pulling it, a 45% pull rate for the guy. And he's also hitting homers to all fields. Like you look at his home run spray chart, there's more to right, but I mean, he's a switch hitter, so he's hitting it everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, if that ankle thing that took him out last night isn't anything serious, we could be looking at a 40 homer season from a second baseman with like 7 outs above average if he just doesn't increase his outs above average. Like
You know what's crazy is sorry to cut you off, but anytime you see a switch hitter, I feel like it's very common for them to be better as a left-handed hitter facing a right-handed pitcher. That's just kind of naturally what it is. Ketel
Mhm.
Marte is like quite the opposite. He has about 150 less plate appearances against left-handed pitching, meaning as a right-handed hitter. He has more home runs hitting right-handed.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah, and
Yeah,
1120 OPS as a right-handed batter and 819 OPS as a left-handed batter.
yeah. It makes you wonder if he should ever pull the old Shane Victorino
Shane
2013
Victorino, exactly.
Victorino.
Yeah,
Yes.
the permanent righty.
Yep. Um, yeah, worked that shout out 2013 ALCS game six. It was against a righty. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, yeah, with Ketel Marte, it's pretty crazy. And he I remember when he signed that extension with Arizona, and Arizona seemed to be kind of in a sort of directionless spot. And he was one of the only veterans out there who seemed of decent quality. And he'd been kind of up and down with health, up and down with performance. We were like, okay, this extension is kind of whatever. I don't even know if it was worth it for Arizona, but this has seemed to really pay off. Starting in 2023 with a pretty good year there, and uh, catalyzing this year where it seems like the Diamondbacks are kind of getting a bargain with this extension so far.
Absolutely.
Um,
They
yeah,
just
but
had they just had Eduardo Rodriguez come off the IL too.
yeah, that's pretty big for them. Yeah, I mean their biggest addition of the offseason for sure. Not even including Peterson. I mean Peterson will obviously end up the better deal so far, but
And uh,
Erod
and
was the headliner.
and Merrill Kelly starting today too.
Right.
Getting,
Yeah.
getting stronger. Yeah, Jordan Montgomery's obviously been struggling for them this year, but yeah, Gallen's been himself. He hasn't stayed healthy, but he's been himself. Kelly's coming back, Eduardo Rodriguez is coming back, and then you have Fod, Montgomery, and Nelson.
Yeah, I mean their identity's kind of flipped because their ERA plus their team ERA plus is 93, which means 7% below average, but their team OPS plus is 114. So they've gone from the quality pitching team to the very quality hitting team. So
Absolutely.
yeah, good for them.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's very cool that we get to see an NL West race between three teams. I feel like that's something we haven't seen in forever. I can't even tell you the last time the three-team NL West race was compelling at this late in the season.
Yeah, no. Yeah, because I feel like since 2013 when the Dodgers started racking those titles up, it's mostly been it's it has not been that competitive.
Yeah,
Obviously
2021
2021
was
was very fun, but not three teams.
yeah, no.
Um, but yeah, anything more on Arizona?
No, I think that's kind of it. But yeah, very cool to see the West being competitive.
It is quite dandy, especially when it's not necessarily because the Dodgers are doing bad, it's just because there's three really good teams. And the Giants have been doing well, not enough to really
Yeah,
contend in the NL West, but they could steal a playoff spot too, potentially. But yeah, now on to um players to highlight, where we will start with the lows, so we end with the highs. Starting with our Sunday, August 11, 2024 edition of Slightly Alarming Statistics.
He's been barreling up the ball way less.
He's not missing bats. He's not getting the ball on the ground, and people are hitting it in the air more.
It's been so bad.
He is getting a
slightly alarming.
yeah. So for my slightly alarming today, I'm looking at a guy who was an all-star this year, and has had kind of the second half slump, and it's Trey Turner, who has not been hitting well lately since July 20th. The same parameters that we were using for the Diamondbacks, the Padres, whatever. Since July 20th, Trey Turner is slashing 169, 207, 229 for a 436 OPS, a 20 weighted runs created plus, and minus 0.6 FWAR. Among the 173 qualifiers in this span, he ranks fifth worst in OBP, eighth worst in slugging, sixth worst in OPS, sixth worst in weighted runs created plus, and second worst in FWAR. So he's been, among qualifiers, a pretty consensus bottom 10 player in all of baseball. Before this span, Trey Turner had an average exit velocity of 90.6 miles an hour, and in this span, it is 84.4 miles per hour, the seventh lowest among the 121 hitters with at least 50 batted balls in this span. So, he's hitting the ball a lot softer now. His line drive rate before the span was 19.1%, which isn't particularly high, especially for a guy like Trey Turner. But in the span, it is down to 15.3%, which is the 11th lowest on that same list. In this span, Trey Turner has particularly struggled against four-seam fastballs. He is hitting 100 and slugging 250 against four-seamers, and that's including his batted balls and his strikeouts. So when you actually just consider his batted balls, it looks a lot worse. His 15 batted balls against four-seamers in the span and an average launch angle of 38 degrees. That is the fourth highest among the 244 hitters with at least 10 batted balls against four-seam fastballs. During the span, Trey Turner has a ground ball rate of 53.8%, which is tied for the eighth highest on the aforementioned list of 121, which is okay for Trey Turner because he's very fast, but you never really want to be at 53.8%, regardless of who you are. And before this span, 32.4% of his non-ground balls were pulled. So his pull rate's been high on ground balls, and that's kind of normal for most hitters, but 32.4% of his non-ground balls were pulled, and he hit 618 and slugged 1765 on said pulled non-ground balls before this span. But in this span, that number is down to just 26.7% of non-ground balls being pulled. And throughout the span, he is batting and slugging 136 on non-ground balls that are hit straight away or to the opposite field. So he's not striking out. He's striking out around the same rate, but when he's making contact, it's been a lot worse. He's not pulling it the same way he used to. He's hitting it softer than he used to. Because of that, Trey Turner has been one of the worst hitters in the league over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and for that, he is getting a slightly alarming.
Yeah, Trey Turner.
Slightly alarming.
Yeah, he was having a great start to the year. And yeah, I wonder if this downfall was sort of due to happen or if the injury kind of took him out of rhythm. But yeah, because he was out for 6 or 8 weeks or something like that.
Well, I mean, the injury, he did play well for a bit after the injury.
Yeah, and so yeah, I guess it wasn't. You can't
You
fully
can't
attribute
directly
it.
to that. Say this was it.
Yeah. Yeah, so my slightly alarming kind of goes runs into an inside joke, but yeah, it's just you'll get it when I say the name, but it is Luis Robert of Team Chris taking the outfielder 2 spot, the third victim on my team on
Have all three of your outfielder twos been on slightly alarming? I know Nolan
yes.
Jones. Did you put Cedric Mullins on there?
I put Nolan Jones, Cedric Mullins, and Luis Robert all have occupied the outfielder 2 spot on Team Chris. And yeah, they're all being featured on Slightly Alarming because Luis Robert has been very emblematic of the White Sox's struggles. I almost wanted to include the White Sox as a topic on the show, but I was like, well, I have to talk about Luis Robert, and I want to make sure we don't touch on Luis Robert because of how bad he's been. Because it would be hard not to highlight how bad he's been in his past 20 games. And in his last 20 games, Luis Robert is hitting 124 with a 365 OPS. Out of 172 qualifiers in the span, his average is 4th lowest, on base percentage is the lowest, slugging is 6th lowest, and OPS is 3rd lowest. Out of 118 hitters to see 300 plus pitches in the span, Luis Roberts' expected batting average is 4th lowest, and expected WOBA is the lowest. And his strike, this largely, almost entirely has to do with the strikeout rate. His strikeout rate has gone from an already bad 32% to 48%. Out of 172 qualifiers, his strikeout rate is the highest by 10.5 percentage points. His whiff rate has gone from 33% to 41%, and out of 118 hitters, his whiff rate is the 2nd highest. And lastly, he's the 9th player in baseball history to strike out 40 times in a 20-game span. So yeah, Luis Robert, he is getting a
Slightly alarming.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, he's swinging and missing all around, and yeah, a big part of why the White Sox lost 21 games in a row. That stretch of Luis Robert largely encompasses that. But yeah, now we go from the lows to the highs, where we're talking players or subjects that are outperforming expectations with our Sunday, August 11, 2024 edition of How About That?
He's striking out less, walking more, and he's also making better contact.
Turning into a strikeout machine just out of nowhere.
He's been excellent all around this year.
He is getting a
How about that?
Yeah, I think unless Luis Robert catches fire to end the year, you need to do like a full report on Team Chris outfielder twos.
Yeah, I'll have to I'll have to look at all the spans, combine all the numbers because I mean we got to be rocking like a if the OPS is in the 6s, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't know if you'd be able to do weighted runs created plus, but yeah, we need to see the slash line for sure.
Yeah, we need to do that for sure.
Yeah, so for the second time this year and the first time since the first show of the regular season, I am going reliever diving, and I am talking about a guy that I think was on very few radars before this season, but has emerged as perhaps the best reliever in the league. I'm talking about Cade Smith from the Cleveland Guardians, who has been utterly dominant this year, and perhaps some would say he's not even the best reliever in his own bullpen, and that's an entirely fair assessment to make. I think that's a lot of the reason why he hasn't gotten a ton of attention this year. But in 56 innings pitched, throughout 55 games this year. Cade Smith has a 2.09 ERA and a 1.48 FIP. His 12.54 strikeouts per nine, 2.54 walks per nine, and 0.16 home runs per nine have given him the second highest F/WAR among all relievers this season, only trailing Mason Miller, which is excellent. Among the 181 qualified relievers, he ranks sixth in strikeout rate, third in strikeout minus walk rate at 30.2%, and it has the lowest FIP among all qualified relievers. So that is very exciting. But what's interesting to me is how he does it, because Cade Smith is borderline a one-pitch pitcher. He throws his four-seam fastball 67.6% of the time, and really any results he gets are on his four-seamer, because opponents are hitting 174 and slugging 246 against it. It has a 30% whiff rate and a 40.8% strikeout rate, with a 96 mile per hour average pitch speed. Cade Smith's fastball has a run value of 20, and that is the most of any pitch in all of Major League Baseball this year. The most effective pitch from run value comes from a reliever. It's never happened in these 6 years that run value has been tracked, but it's happening this year, which is very exciting. It is also tied with Zach Wheeler's sinker for the highest run value per 100 among the 350 pitchers with at least 100 plate appearances ending on them. That is 3.4. The highest run value ever produced by a pitch coming from a reliever in a single season since this was tracked in 2019 has come from Edwin Diaz's slider in 2022. It produced 22 run value, but Cade Smith is certainly on pace to pass that this year, and that could be a very exciting thing to watch for. A reason why Cade Smith has been so successful is that he pounds the zone and gets rewarded for it. His in-zone percentage is 55.6%, while the league average is just 48.6%. So that's 7% above the average. His zone swing rate is 2% below average, and his zone contact rate is 6.8% below the major league average. Cade Smith has a 50.4% called strike and whiff rate on four-seamers thrown in the strike zone. Over half of the four-seamers he throws in the strike zone are called strikes or whiffs. And that is the third highest among the 163 pitchers with at least 200 four-seamers thrown in the strike zone. And it's also the highest among the 88 pitchers when you up that parameter to 300. His overall called strike rate of 19.4% on any pitch is tied for the 16th highest among the 271 pitchers with at least 750 pitches thrown. And despite throwing a four-seamer 2/3 of the time, Cade Smith only has a 15.7% fly ball rate. Normally, when you throw a lot of fastballs, you're going to get a lot more fly balls because that's just the way the ball moves, the way that hitters are programmed to hit them, I suppose. And the fly ball rate on his four-seamer is only 19.2%, the 11th lowest among the 199 pitchers with at least 50 batted balls against their four-seamers. So Cade Smith has really emerged as an interesting reliever to me this year. He's a lot of the reason why Cleveland is 2.5 games up in the Central and has been leading that division the whole year. Him and Klasa have been quite the dynamic duo at the back end of that Cleveland bullpen.
Yeah, Cade Smith.
How about that?
Very interesting analysis as always when Daniel's bringing up, especially a reliever, because relievers can always have some weird stuff going on for them. And yeah, I mean, Cleveland it's the Cleveland bullpen factory pretty much. They're just always going to really produce.
The starting pitching lab took a year off so they could focus on the bullpen.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So yeah, now on to my how about that, which seems kind of overdue, and I think a lot of people were talking about him because he was hitting a lot of home runs. But I figure it's time for us to acknowledge what Tyler Fitzgerald has been doing for San Francisco, because he has been absolutely killing it as a shortstop over there in the Bay. In his last 22 games, Tyler Fitzgerald is hitting .345 with a 1236 OPS. And out of 174 qualifiers in this span, his slugging ranks second and OPS ranks third. And out of 194 hitters with 300 plus pitches seen in the span, his expected slugging ranks 9th and expected WOBA ranks 10th. Part of this has to do with him just hitting the ball harder. His average exit velocity has gone from 86.8 miles per hour to 89.5 miles per hour. A large part of this has to do with those, hard hit balls being hard hit fly balls, to an extreme degree. His barrel rate has gone from 4% to 20%. And out of 195 hitters with 50 plus batted balls in the span, Tyler Fitzgerald's barrel rate is the 7th highest, but also he is pulling a lot of fly balls. His rate of batted balls being pulled fly balls has gone from 10% to 20%. And out of 195 hitters, his rate of batted balls being pulled fly balls is the 2nd highest in baseball. He has also gone from pulling 31% of his fly balls, which is already pretty good, to pulling 67% of them. He's, Eugenio Suarez light over here. Out of 238 hitters with 10 plus fly balls in the span, Tyler Fitzgerald's rate of fly balls being pulled is the 3rd highest. And this has improved his home run to fly ball ratio from 13% before the span to 61% in this span. 61% of the time that Tyler Fitzgerald has put a ball in the air or hit a fly ball in his last 22 games, 61% of the time it has been a home run. And out of 238 hitters, that is the highest home run to fly ball ratio. So yeah, that is part of why he hit, 11 home runs in a 17 game span. He hasn't hit a home run in his last 5 games, but he's gotten on base safely in each of the last 5 games. So I figure it's still timely to highlight him. But yeah, he's been absolutely killing it. 1236 OPS in his last 22 games, and helping the Giants potentially make a playoff run here. So Tyler Fitzgerald.
How about that?
All right, so that does it for players to highlight. It is my turn on Savant trivia. Yeah, keeping it, I don't know if it'll be easy.
Okay.
It'll be timely. And similar, it's kind of a similar style to something we've done before. But I don't know, it was a random thought. And it's a fun topic that we've kind of memed on before, but we're going to be looking at the 2024 Bolts leaderboard.
Oh boy.
I'm hoping you haven't looked at it recently, but I'm sure there's probably some gimmies in here.
I know who's not in the top 5.
Okay. Well, all right. Well,
one particular person that's not in the top 5.
okay. So yeah, with Bolts, not to give away the whole thing, but well, the actual stat is the amount of times someone reaches 30 plus feet per second in a competitive run, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yes.
For base running for the most part. So yeah. I will put 5 minutes on the clock, which gives you about, or actually I'll give 6 because I feel like 5 might be a little bit quick. I'll give you 6 minutes on the clock. And when this recording turns back on, we will have 10 candidates.
Oh boy.
For Bulls leaderboard. And yeah. All right. 3, 2, 1. And just like that, the 6 minutes are up. Daniel has a list of candidates for the top 10 Bolts leaderboard. I'll preface this by saying, it's going to be like, I don't know how to judge it, but I think there's 3, just based on what I'm looking at the top 10, there's 3 I think you should be able to really get. There's a few that I'd really be surprised if you got, and then a couple where it's like kind of wishy-washy, but
all right.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the guesses are, because it's not one that should be necessarily easy. So yeah, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so this was not by design, but I actually have exactly 10 guesses. I think my goal is probably get like 5, maybe 6.
Would be
I
nice.
think I know who the obvious ones are. I'm gonna start with a guy who I know for a fact is there because I have looked at the Bolts leaderboard recently. Not that I've like gone to it, but I've just seen it on
Yeah.
the front page. Give me Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah, he leads with 100. That is 30 more than the second best player.
All right, so I am 1 for 1. Can I get Ellie De La Cruz?
Ellie De La Cruz is top 10. He is number 3 with 64.
Okay, so I'm 2 for 2. I got 2. How about Jacob Young?
Jacob Young is in the top 10. He's number 7 with 48.
Yeah, I know he's been very fast for the Nationals this year. Sarah Langs had a bunch of stats about how he had like come close to like records of like most career stolen bases without getting caught, uh, or something like that. So I got 3. Can I get Corbin Carroll?
Corbin Carroll is number 4
All right.
with 63 bolts.
Okay, so I got 4. How about O'Neill Cruz?
O'Neill Cruz is not on the list. I'm trying to
Okay,
see where he
I
might
didn't
be
feel great
here.
about that one, but I figured
Um,
there'd be a chance.
he's number 26 with 19
Okay,
bolts.
so not like terribly far down.
No.
Uh, I don't feel great about this pick, but I feel like you can never really doubt the guy. Can I have Trey Turner?
Trey Turner is number 11 on the list.
Goodness, of course. I've done that twice now where I've gotten number 11. Yeah, it's because he missed
What
a month.
what sucks is I figured out I was doing the game last night and I was originally going to do 11 because he was tied with number 10 and
And then number 10 had a
number
bold last.
10 got another one and is
Yeah,
made it a top 10 list. So
actually. All
unfortunate
right.
luck for you.
So I still have 4. How about Jaron Duran?
Jaron Duran is not on the list. Let me look
Okay.
at where he is. I'm sure he's not far off. He's number 13.
Oh wow. Wow. All right. So I'm just missing. How about Wyatt Langford?
Wyatt Langford is number 8. Or
Nice.
actually, he's tied for number 7 with Jacob Young with
Perfect.
48 bolts.
Perfect. All right. So I got 5. Let's see if I can go
There
7
you
for
go.
10. Is Gunnar Henderson on the list?
Gunnar Henderson is not on the list. Let's see where he is. He's number 36 on the list with 12 bolts.
All right. Now my last one. This is definitely a shot in the dark. I don't know if this guy has played enough to be on the list, but I know he's very fast. How about Pete Crow Armstrong?
He is number 10 with 47 bolts.
All right. I went 6 for 10. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Who did I miss?
Did you have 10 guesses? I
I had
thought that was
exactly.
9.
No, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Yeah.
Okay.
The missed on were O'Neill Cruz, Trey Turner, Jaron Duran, and Gunnar Henderson.
Oh, right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. That's a quality. That's probably better than I would have done, to be honest.
I'll take the performance.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. Just going in blind and getting 60% correct. Yeah, pretty good, especially considering all the array of good players. And yeah, and also you got number 11 and number 13. So
Yeah, right.
just missing on the dartboard.
8 out of 13.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Um, so yeah, that does it for Savant
Wait,
Trivia.
who did I want to know who I missed?
Oh yeah, that's I'm not being a great host
I
here.
don't think I think I missed number 2, right?
Yeah, this was a shocker to me. Jeremy Pena, apparently.
Really?
That's what I'm saying.
Never in a million years would I have gotten Jeremy Pena for second on the Bolts leaderboard.
Yeah, that was probably the one I'd be most surprised if you got.
Yeah.
Number 5 was Jackson Chorio.
Okay.
He has 58 bolts. 29.7 feet per second is his average sprint speed. Number 6, Johan Rojas at 57. I'm not sure how much he gets on base, but he does sprint around them very, very fast. And then number 9 was the last one you didn't get. Julio Rodriguez at 47 bolts.
That's all right. I
Yeah.
think the one that I should have gotten was Chorio. I'm fine with missing the other 3.
Yeah, and it was also tough because like looking at the actual leaderboards, you know, the number 7 guy had 48, number 8 guy had 48, then 9 and 10 both had 47, then number 11 had 46,
Yeah,
then
thanks,
12 and
guys.
13 had 42. So it was kind of tight. 7 through 13, they were all within 6 of each other. So yeah, it was pretty competitive there. Um, yeah. So yeah, that does it for Savant Trivia. Any additional comments before we wrap this one up?
No, I can't think of anything else. Yeah, I do want
Yeah.
to look at this leaderboard for myself now.
Yeah, I mean, condolences to White Sox fans, just
Yeah,
suffering, continuous suffering. Pedro Grifol, he's out of there. Not really too much to analyze. If it was probably inevitable. Um, Obviously not entirely his fault of the White Sox demise, but I don't think he was really helping a whole lot either. But yeah, the White Sox lost 21 in a row. I would I
Mhm.
would guess, coming into the season, if we had to guess a team that would do that, it would probably be them or the A's. But luckily the A's have avoided complete disaster. They're only a little bit bad. But yeah, the White Sox 21 in a row. I'm very
That's
unfortunate.
shout out to Grady Sizemore. Pretty cool that he's managing a team now.
That is very cool. Especially, yeah, a guy who like we kind of had a lot of what ifs about his playing career. Like, hey, maybe he can turn something successful in
Maybe he can
coaching.
take the Sox to the playoffs. The already 91 lost White Sox.
Yeah. He-
They can max out at what 71 wins at this point.
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
That's
hilarious.
tough.
Yeah, so yeah, that does it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. Follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter, @Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram, @Daniel_Curran. And follow the show Instagram, @Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball once again. See you then.
This conversation is over.